Okay, so at the end of my last video, we had just come to the Treaty of Ghent. We said that it was signed before the actual most successful battle for the American military, which was the Battle of New Orleans. And we said that the U.S. delegation was led by John Adams' son, John Quincy Adams, who, like his father, has a very long and distinguished career as a politician and as a servant of the people. He will become our 6th president. Like his father, he's going to face some criticisms, and he'll have ups and downs, but he does serve the American people well. Now, in the Treaty of Ghent, again, just like in the Jay Treaty, we do not deal with the neutrality issues at sea. So, again, we were really not addressing the elephant in the room. We fail to handle this, but again, we don't see the neutral rights at sea come to a head any longer. This is the last conflict we have with Great Britain. We don't go to war with her. We may have our disagreements over the years, but we've never been to war with Great Britain since. So even though the treaty failed to address that one particular issue, it does not seem to have impaired our continued growth as a nation. The one thing that did come out of the Treaty of Ghent is we decided that, you know what, rather than going to war to settle these issues, that there needed to be some maritime law, some commission that would handle future disputes like this when countries were overstepping their bounds by seizing ships and impressing sailors into another navy that was not their national navy of origin. So it brought an end to our war. Now, the results of the war, just like with the Revolutionary War, were pretty key. First off, once again, just like with the Barbary pirate issue when we fought in the War of Tripoli, we gained even more respect from foreign powers because we're asserting ourselves and we're showing that we actually do have an ability to protect ourselves and that we're not going to be easily taken over. So countries are beginning to stand up and take notice, and we're not considered just a weakling nation just waiting to fall. Where American people were concerned. Now, up until this point, the citizens of the United States, they still saw themselves more based on the state that they came from and not their country. If you would have talked to James Madison, he would have said he was a Virginian. If you talked to Thomas Jefferson, he would have said he was a Virginian. None of them saw themselves as Americans. But now that we've had to once again come together, defend our nation against an outside foe, and we are successful, and we're successful in our own right. We're not just given something because we were given our independence. It just so happened that God set the stage that Great Britain felt like fighting us was not in its best interest, and they let us go. But in this case, we actually earned our victory, and people were proud of that. And so now they were willing to hold their heads up higher and say, hey, I'm an American. I live in Virginia, but I'm an American. And that's the way it has been ever since. People have a strong sense of nationalism, a love of their country. We see some war heroes coming out of this, Andrew Jackson and William Henry Harrison, and they will use their successes in battle in order to promote their own political careers in the future. Andrew Jackson becomes president, and William Henry Harrison also becomes president. We see that America becomes less dependent on foreign goods. Again, with embargoes and war and people seizing ships, we had to turn inward in order to have our needs met, which is the way it should be. We should be buying American-made things. We should not be looking to buy, foreign oil or foreign cars. I mean, I understand foreign cars, many people say that they're better. I don't know. I have a Hyundai, and while I would have said I love Hyundai a couple years ago, now I'm not a big fan. So it comes and it goes. But, we should be turning and looking inward to provide for our own needs and not be becoming beholden to other nations for what we need. This war ends the struggle between France and Britain to control Europe and to colonize North America. So now everybody goes back to their respective corners. There's no power plays. There's no trying to overtake someone. Everybody is actually going to live at peace with one another. And even France and Britain will no longer go to war after this. After Napoleon, you will actually see France and Britain become much more on the allies and coming together to fight other foreign aggressors. You'll see France and Britain leading the charge in World War I and World War II. They're going to band together in order to keep Germany in check. This also had an effect on the political parties. Obviously, the Federalist Party had been losing popularity since they tried to impose the Alien and Sedition Acts. Nobody really liked them. They saw them as trying to infringe upon their constitutional rights, and so they said, you know what, nobody really wanted to be aligned with that party, and the Federalist Party collapsed. The Democratic Republican Party becomes more moderate in its views on central government. So no longer are they going to be so
interruption, teachers, Collier, and...
Sorry about that. So anyway, the Democratic Republican Party no longer is the federal-hating party. They have come to see that their own candidates have had to make some pretty significant decisions to strengthen the federal government. And because their leaders are the ones who strengthen the federal government, they are more trusting of the direction that the federal government is going to go, and they no longer stand opposed to the National Bank or the military. Now, like I said, we are not going to be able to get into Chapter 10, which is a shame because this is where we would learn about Andrew Jackson, but the National Bank is not going to be something that he supports. So we're not done with fighting over the economic policies, but you won't get to that this year. And now, because we've now come to peace with France and with Britain, we're even at peace with, somewhat at peace with Spain. Again, we're not going to be able to get into when we colonize Texas and how we take Texas in the Texan Revolution. But right now, everybody's living at harmony. And this brings in what we call the era of good feelings. And the president during this time is going to be James Monroe. And as noted here, his presidency was marked by harmony that existed in the country after the war. So everybody just wanted to be able to live their lives. Nobody wanted to assert their political opinions. Nobody wanted to assert their foreign rights. Everybody was just happy with their corner of green earth that God had given them, and they were not looking to be in conflict with anyone. And they just wanted to grow. They wanted to be better. So there was a promising beginning. Monroe came to the presidency with a strong background for leadership because, again, yes, he was one of our founding fathers. He accepted the nomination of the Democratic Republicans. He was actually considered a moderate of a moderate. He wanted to unify the nation. He didn't like to see the division of what the political parties had done. So he did not want to be seen as being tied specifically to one political party. He wanted to legitimately work for all people, no matter what their ideas were about how politics should go. So he would not be tied, let me add not here, he would not be tied to any one political party, and he did not go out and campaign. And I can't say that in my lifetime I've ever seen a politician not go out and campaign. But he figured that if he was really the man for the job, that his public record would speak for itself. and that he did not need to go out and do mudslinging. He didn't need to go out and downplay his opponent. So he actually took the time and just continued doing his job as he always would. Now his opponent doesn't do that, and his opponent criticizes him for not being out on the campaign trail. But his strategy actually works, and he wins. Unlike in other elections, the political parties did not clash because, again, we only had one political party. The candidates were nominated through caucuses, which were closed private meetings of political leaders, whereas now in our political system, we have, if you think of the last election, you had, 12, 15 Democrats come out to run against Donald Trump. And they spent from March until June having weekly debates. And then they went to the primaries. And the primaries, that's where the voters that are registered for that political party, they come out and they cast their vote for who they think should represent the party in the presidential election. And depending on who takes majority of the primaries across the country, because every state has a primary, and whoever carries the most, that is who's supposed to get the backing of that political party. Now we know that actually Bernie Sanders is the one who had the most traction. He was chosen through majority of all the primaries. However, he's not our president, because what ended up happening is a caucus. A caucus was a private meeting of political leaders where the Democratic Party went to Bernie and basically convinced him to step away. So think about it. We had the election of Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Everybody expected Aaron Burr to give the presidency to Thomas Jefferson when it ended in a tie. But he was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And he stood his ground, and he allowed it to come down to the vote, and the vote still went to Thomas Jefferson, but he didn't back down. Now you have Bernie Sanders. He's done it twice now in the political arena, where he has been the leading forerunner of the Democratic Party to be the presidential candidate, and both times, the Democratic Party has convinced him, either through machinations or through, I'll just say, some sort of political deal, where he has willingly given up his winning position for the Democratic nomination for president. So, this is first off, I'm pointing out the difference between how politics run today versus how politics ran then. Because of the lack of communication, there was no way our country could have candidates nominated directly by the people. Okay, so they did. They still relied, and we still haven't even gone to a national election for president yet. It's still being decided by the Electoral College. So candidates were chosen by the caucuses of their political party. Then I'm also talking about how the way we do it now, whereas the people vote for their candidate, how even then, not all the time does the people's choice get the nomination, because we've seen it twice with Bernie Sanders. Typically, the parties usually nominated the incumbent, the president, or the Secretary of State, of which Monroe was, I believe, Madison's Secretary of State at the time. So it was a natural transition to say that he would be able to take over for the presidency. One of the things that Monroe did that was different was he did not give an inaugural address when he was elected, and because he did not want to be a party-bound man, he did not choose his cabinet members from his party. He chose the best suited people. Again, to me, that's a very admirable quality, that he was willing to look across the aisle and say, you know what, they have a much more suited person for Secretary of Treasury or Secretary of State. And that's exactly what he does do.